morning, happy Friday. Welcome to my craft room. This morning I am creating pantry labels. So I am going to show you how to do that in case you haven't done them before and you would like some pantry labels. So you can see I have several already done. Now, so we're gonna go, I'm in Design Space, we're gonna go to text. Now, for me personally, well, let's start with, do you see the A's here? The A is for the Cricut All Access. I choose to subscribe to it because I really like the fonts. There's a lot of great projects if you're just starting out. I've been very surprised by some of the little pictures and add-ins and things that I have found on there to use. I have found it very beneficial. I just went ahead and paid for the subscription up front. You can do it where it's a monthly fee and there's different levels. So anything that has the A, if you're on Cricut Access, then those come with it. If it doesn't have an A, it'll have a price beside it, or it may say free. If it says free, those are products that are free just for being a Cricut Design Space user, whether you have the access or not. If it has a price beside it, then those are ones that you have to pay for regardless. So for pantry labels, I like this brush script. That's what I did mine in. But I also like this particular script. Let me find it, sorry. It's actually up near the top, and this is the one that my daughter likes. It's called A Perfect Day. So you click the script that you want and it'll open up and give you the typewriter. So the one I have left is powdered sugar. So you type in what you need. When you first type it in, your letters are going to come up just as regular typed letters. So don't let that throw you off. And then when you hit enter, then you get your script in the font that you chose. So if you notice, there are spaces between all of the letters. And it comes up looking a little bit odd with all that spacing if you don't do something about it. So in Design Space, you want to change it. So in order to do that, you're going to hit Actions. But what I want to show you, because this was something I had to figure out at first. It's very simple, but it did take me a second to figure it out. So like this, if you do Actions, you see everything's grayed out, nothing's going to come up. In order to do any actions, you have to actually tell Design Space what you want to do actions on. So I put my little square around powdered sugar. Now when I do actions, it gives me choices. So I'm going to ungroup that powdered sugar. And now, because it's all with a square around it, it's still all going to move together. So in order to do anything separate, I have to take the square off. But first, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, only because my old age eyesight, even with glasses on, it's easier if I make it bigger. Okay, so now I'm going to touch my screen and the whole thing is no longer marked. So now I'm going to take just what I want, which is each letter, and move them. It can certainly be time consuming, and if you're like me and use the iPad, I know it probably sounds crazy, but I've never used my computer on Design Space. I always use my iPad just because I love my iPad. However, you know, sometimes it can certainly get frustrating trying to move the little pieces and get them in the right spot. That's just the way it is. And I will be honest, there are times that I can't get them exactly where I want them, and I just give up and wait, and then when I'm putting my vinyl on my surface, then I'll put my letters where I want it at that time. Okay, so let's see, we're gonna make that just a little closer. Okay, so now I have it where I want it, and now I'm gonna make it the size that I want. I'm making all of mine See, this is the frustration with the iPad, getting it exactly where you want it to be. All right, so now I'm going to attach it, because if I don't attach it back, and again, your square has to be over everything you want to attach. If I don't attach it back, when I go to move it, my letters will be everywhere. And then also when I go to print it, my letters will be everywhere. So anything that you want to show up on your canvas the way you have it set up in your screen, you need to attach it. And then also weld your letters together. By welding them, it keeps it all in one piece as opposed to a bunch of little pieces. And the other thing on with the iPad, sometimes you got to be careful because it's very easy to accidentally change what you want your the size that you want it. If you go to move something, it's easy to actually change your size without realizing it. So just be careful. All right, so then you hit make it, and it's going to show up on your mat in a way that Cricut thinks will be the best utilization of your materials. So Cricut Design Space is very good about saving you materials, and they'll put it in all the spaces that they think it will work better. So if you want it to show up in a certain way on your mat, you need to attach it all that way. And then the other thing is the ones that aren't attached, so you can click it and you can actually move it on your mat. So if you want to put coffee in one color, cereal in a different color, you could put them in a space and then cut out that piece of material in the color that you want it. Okay? So we're going to continue. Oh, sorry about that. I never have my Cricut turned off. Turned on. We'll hit continue. Select an accessory. I have the Cricut Air 2. Okay, so as you can see, we have everything on there. It's set for vinyl, and everything is on there ready to go. So I have a piece that's actually been used before. However, I know that I have all of what I need there. So I'm going to put it there. The reason I'm putting it this way I have this. Sometimes when you buy them and they tape them, leaves a little residual, so when it's like that, so I can use it, I'll just put a little Goo Gone on it and it's fine. So when you put your mat in, make sure that you're going under these little spaces here. If not, it's not going to go in well. And I like to put just a little bit of pressure to make sure that it picks it up. Then you hit your arrow, and it's set to vinyl on my machine. That's why it picked up vinyl on Design Space. My C is flashing. I'm going to hit it, and now it's going to prepare and print. All right, so now we have everything printed. I know it's kind of hard to see because it's white on white. Now, the one thing I will tell you is that these letters are actually very, very small. Not in height so much as the fact that they're very thin. So when you use the thinner fonts that you use, because I normally use this font to write, but my daughter loves this font and this is what she wanted. So thinner fonts can be so much harder to weed. So if this were a nice thick font, I would actually just leave it together and weed it all out together. But because it's so thin, I don't want the pieces rolling over on themselves. So I'm going to do smaller pieces. So we will weed. I do have the Cricut light board, which I really like a lot. And I would normally use that for this. You know, my small item vision is just not as good as it used to be, so I would use that. Now, with these, so I will go in and weed out the big portion that I can. Because anytime you have this small a font, it's super easy to lose what you're working on, okay? So I always suggest to people, if you can, when you're first starting, you know, use the thicker fonts. I know that the problem is that sometimes these thinner fonts just look so much nicer, and I get that. So, all right, so for me, I save and reuse my transfer tape. I reuse it until it can't be used anymore. So I have transfer tape stuck everywhere, so please don't mind that. All right, so I'm gonna put on my transfer tape. Now, if you notice, all I did was take off the big part. I didn't take out like the centers and stuff. Like normally, if I was weeding something, I would take out everything before I put on my transfer tape, because it's also a pain to take stuff off your transfer tape. However, with these small fonts, all I do is take off the bigger pieces, and then I put it on my transfer tape with all the inside pieces still there. Sorry. This is a very used piece of transfer tape, but I'm doing that also intentionally because my font has such thin pieces, and I'm putting it on my transfer tape with pieces that still need to pull out. I use a very old used piece of transfer tape so that I can pull the center pieces out a little bit easier. Okay, so if you can see that, I put on my transfer tape, but see, like my O, my F's, my S, they still need to be weeded. So the reason why I do it like this, when you're on your regular vinyl sheet, it's so easy to lose things like your eye. You know, as you're trying to pull out the center of some of these thin pieces, it's very easy to break them. This way, they're already stuck down on tape. They hold a little bit better. Now, mind you, I have still broken them like this, but it's not quite as easy for me to break them. Now, I have, you know, my tools. I love Cricut tools. I love the way they feel. I love the way they work. My Cricut scissors are my favorite scissors. I've got 100 pairs of scissors. My Cricut ones are my favorite. However, for small letters, I do use other things. So this I actually got from the dollar store. It's very cheap in your hand. You can tell it's cheap. However, it works well. So basically all it is a needle on a piece of plastic. And I like it because I can go in and grab some of these small pieces out much easier. So not all dollar stores have these. I went into one looking for something particular, that particular thing being moon pies. So the dollar store has these little baby moon pies. They sell boxes of baby moon pies, and my husband loves them. And they're small. They're about the size of a $50. And so ours have been out of them. And my husband has been so upset because he hasn't had his moon pies. So I had been stopping in all of them that I see to try and find them. And they're nice because I can just put one in his lunch and he's happy, but he hasn't had a ton of sugar, so it makes us both happy. So anyways, I didn't find the moon pies there, but I did find these little things, and I had never seen them in any other dollar store. And also, you know, I stopped at a lot of them. So and then this little thing I also got at the dollar store. It looks like it's for doing jewels like on your fingernails, but it's nice because that little end with these thin things, as you're pulling stuff up, it's so easy for it to all pull up. And that little rounded end is very helpful and getting them back, placed back down. And also I will use it to hold in place when I'm trying to just pop out a little piece like that. And it does work fairly well. You know, sometimes it's very hard to get any of these little things to stay in place like they should. I mean, working with these tiny little letters is really not the easiest, at least for me. I mean, maybe other people find it extremely easy, but for me, I do not. And of course, my daughter wants this very thin font, but it is a pretty font, so. So with this little tool here, I really like it. So what I was going to say, it basically is only a needle on a piece of plastic. So I was showing my husband and he was like, oh yeah, you could take any piece of plastic, heat it up, and just put a pen needle on it, and it would stay in place like that. Because I was like, oh, maybe I should go buy a bunch of them in case this one breaks. And he was like, oh, don't bother. If it breaks, you know, we just heat the plastic up and put a new needle on it. So if you can't find them, I mean, I haven't tried, but apparently they shouldn't be too super hard to make it. But it is definitely the best thing I've had for tiny little letters. All right, there we go. So if you can see how thin that font is. And I've got my finger stuck to it. All right, so I'm not gonna have you sit here and watch me weed the others because you can see how it works. But see, this is one of those, like I said, for putting jewels on fingernails. And this end really does work really well as it's starting to come up. I use this a lot and just putting the little letters back down so that I can have things where I need them. And then also to, like, if I need to lift something up and put it in a different spot, this thing works really well for that too. So we'll put this on here, let it, oh, I took an E with me, look, see? I'm telling you, these little, can you see that? Oh, these little letters are such a pain. Where did I take the E from? I took it from coffee. Let me put it back. Give the coffee back its E. right, so I'll do the rest of these and get them off to my daughter. I hope that was helpful a little bit for you, and I hope you have a blessed and wonderful rest of the day and a very happy weekend.